Eating is something we love, something we treasure, and something that connects to everyone. When I first learned that the topic of our English class revolved around food, I was confused. What is so special about food in a broader context besides the fact that it tastes good and we need it to survive? How will this be relevant to anything outside of the class itself? Ultimately, I was surprised when I found that the significance and deeper meaning of food is all around me. During spring break, my family decided to go skiing and take a drive up to the White Mountains. While we were driving around, we decided to stop at the Omni Mount Washington Resort in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire to grab a bite to eat. Little did I know, this pit stop would reveal many connections to the topics of our classes here as well as my own experience with food. The Omni Mount Washington Resort, also known as the Mount Washington Hotel, is located in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. It overlooks Mount Washington and is a popular tourist destination for those visiting New Hampshire. The hotel was constructed by Joseph Stickney between 1900 and 1902 and cost about $1.7 million in total to build. Several important events were held at the hotel, including the Bretton Woods Monetary Conference, during which the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund were established. Guests would arrive to the Grand Hotel from Portland and Boston and were brought up to the hotel in horse-drawn carriage and eventually motor vehicles. The hotel is filled with several dining locations, including the main dining room, the Princess Room, aka Carolyn Stickney's private dining room, the Cave, and a few other dining rooms. The main dining room is where most of the guest dining took place and continues to take place. The room is spacious and was built in an octagonal shape so that no guest could possibly experience the shame of being placed in the corner of the room. While at the resort, I talked to a waiter who currently works at the hotel, and he briefly described some of the hotel's history. He discussed with my family and I about how the current menu at the hotel is not that different from the menu from the early 1900s, when the hotel was originally built. If anything, he mentioned that the menu has simply adapted with the times, but you can still find some core ingredients and dishes incorporated on the current menu that were also included in the original menu. I decided to do some research and found old menus from the 1900s when the hotel was first built and compared them to the current day menu. One observation I instantly noticed was that both menus incorporated some form of cheese dish. The 1900s menu included a dish called Neufchâtel and Roquefort cheese with toasted crackers. And the current menu includes a dish known as their local cheese plate, which incorporates several different local cheeses, including cabbage cheese. I also noticed that both menus included a lot of fish and seafood dishes, which is quite interesting because Bretton Woods is not located along the coast. The seafood dishes on the 1900s menu included little necks, oyster cocktail, and fried fillet of sole. The seafood dishes on the current menu include seared scallops, coastal chowder, salmon tartare, cranberry-crusted Bay of Fundy salmon, and pan-seared halibut. Finally, both menus incorporate a variety of meats into their menus. One popular meat that appeared to be added to both menus is lamb. The current menu has two dishes that incorporate lamb: Moroccan spiced lamb shank with lemon mint couscous and lamb lollipops with a mint fig compote. I found it very interesting how all three dishes not only included lamb, but they also incorporate some sort of mint aspect into the dish. After reviewing the two menus, I had to agree with the waiter. Both menus are different due to the necessity to keep up with the current delicacies and trends. However, the current menu still incorporates many of the same ingredients and food groups as the old menu. This got me to thinking about my own experience with food. My mom has talked to me numerous times about how there are some dishes her and my dad cook for me and my brothers now that she used to eat as a child. My experience with food and the menus at the Mount Washington Hotel left me wondering if any of the dishes my parents make for us now that they used to eat as kids are different from when they were little, or if they've stayed relatively the same. The dish that instantly came to mind are bellinis, a Lithuanian potato pancake dish that my mother's Lithuanian father used to cook for her when she was little, and my father cooks for my siblings and I now. My mother explained how her father made the potato pancakes for her and her siblings when she was younger, and it was one of the few things that he ever cooked for them, along with a few other Lithuanian dishes. She used to eat bellinis with applesauce and bacon, which differs from our family now as my dad typically cooks the bellinis for us for breakfast on the weekends. Although the dish was passed down from my mom's side of the family, my dad decided to take on the project of recreating the dish after my mom told my dad how much she used to love them when she was little. It was one of my mother's favorite dishes. Her and her siblings loved the bellinis and always looked forward to when her father would make them for them, typically on Sundays. My papa, or my mother's father, used to say it was one of the things his mom, who was from Lithuania, used to cook for him growing up. My mother explained how where she never got to meet her grandma because she had died by the time she was born, it was nice to have the bellinis to connect her family to her father's past and their Lithuanian roots. And where I was never able to meet my papa because he passed away before I was born, the bellinis now connect me and my brothers to my papa's past. So how did the bellinis relate to the meals from the Mount Washington Hotel between the 1900s and today? Not only did the bellinis and the Mount Washington Hotel meals have cultural significance, both have stayed relatively true to their original roots or recipes. My papa used to make the bellinis with potatoes, eggs, flour, salt and pepper, and then fried them in bacon grease. My dad stays relatively true to my papa's recipe. However, my dad also adds oil and garlic powder to the potato pancakes, which is a slight deviation from the original recipe. Similar to my mother's experience, my father usually surprises us with the bellinis on the weekends, typically on Sunday, just like my papa did for my mother and her siblings. However, it was interesting to learn that the bellinis were a dinner dish for my mother, however now they are a breakfast dish for my brothers and I. Overall, it was interesting seeing how the topics from our English class this year could be related to my own personal experience with food as well as new experiences. The menus from the Mount Washington Hotel, as well as my family's experience with the Lithuanian dish bellinis, reveals how food can adapt over time, but they can still stay true to their roots. Dishes tend to carry a story or some sort of cultural significance with them, and although they may adapt over time, the stories are carried on and expressed through each dish.